Still unmated? Her ex laughed. Then the Alpha King growled, "Don't touch my Luna." Hello, everyone. Sometimes the cruelest wound is not being left behind. It is spending years wondering whether the person who left was right about you. Claire Whitmore had spent 2 years learning not to ask that question anymore. Tonight, one familiar voice was about to test everything she had rebuilt. If stories about courage, second chances, and love earned through respect speak to you, subscribe and turn on notifications. It helps our channel continue bringing you stories like this. Now back to Claire. Silverpine Hall glowed beneath chandeliers and rows of candles as wolves from across the Northern Territories gathered for the moon accord. Packed banners hung from the timbered rafters. Musicians played near the Eastern Gallery, and families quietly introduced their unmated sons and daughters between political greetings. Claire had deliberately chosen the opposite side of the room. At 24, the chestnut-haired Omega had no interest in being presented to anyone. Her blue-gray dress was modest, her duties were simple, and the silver crescent pendant resting against her throat was the only thing she wore that mattered. Her mother had left it to her years ago. Tonight, Claire worked beside the healer station with her Aunt Nora, arranging herbs and preparing remedies for guests overwhelmed by the crowded gathering. Here, usefulness mattered more than rank. "You've sorted that feverfew 3 times, Nora said. Claire glanced at the leaves beneath her fingers. "Then it should feel very organized." Nora almost smiled. "Or you're nervous?" Claire did not answer. She had recognized Logan Mercer's voice 20 minutes earlier. Once, Claire had loved him with the certainty of someone too young to imagine affection could become embarrassment. Their families and much of Silverpine had expected Logan, the beta heir, to formally choose her when they came of age. Claire had believed it too. There had been no completed mate bond between them, no sacred tie broken by fate. There had only been promises, expectation, and the painful hope that the man she loved would value her more than the rank she had been born with. He hadn't. When Logan realized Claire's wolf was unusually weak, he publicly refused the match rather than risk tying his future to an Omega he considered unsuitable for a beta's household. The rejection hurt. What came afterward hurt longer. The whispers, the sympathetic looks, the quiet assumption that Logan's decision had revealed something shameful about her. For months, Claire had measured herself against his judgment. Then one morning she stopped. Not all at once. Healing had been smaller than that. It was returning to work, laughing with Nora, helping frightened children through their first shifts, discovering that an ordinary day could still be worth waking for even if no man had chosen her. "You can leave," Nora said gently. "No," Claire tied a bundle of lavender. "If I leave because Logan is here, I'm still letting him decide where I belong." Nora's eyes softened. "There's my girl." Laughter rose near the ceremonial platform. Claire did not need to look, but she did. Logan stood beside Alpha Grant Whitaker, confident in formal black, his dark blonde hair neatly combed. Madeline Brooks rested one elegant hand on his arm. She was beautiful, polished, and exactly the sort of woman Logan once claimed a future leader needed beside him. Claire waited for jealousy. None came. Only an old ache, faint enough now to survive. Then Logan saw her. His expression changed. He said something to Madeline and crossed the hall. Claire returned to her herbs. His cedar cologne reached her before his voice did. "Claire." She lifted her gaze. "Logan." His eyes moved over the healer table, her plain dress, then deliberately settled on the unmarked skin above her collar. 2 nearby guests noticed. Claire saw the moment Logan realized he had an audience. "I wondered if you'd come tonight," he said. "I'm working." Still hiding behind that excuse. Claire's fingers rested beside the lavender. She refused to shrink. Logan tilted his head, amusement sharpening his handsome face. "Still unmated?" He laughed. For one heartbeat, Claire was 22 again, standing before people who had watched her become unwanted. Then her thumb brushed the crescent pendant at her throat. She remembered who she had become afterward. Claire raised her chin to answer him, but the towering doors of Silverpine Hall swung open, and the laughter died before her words could leave her mouth. The first thing Claire noticed was how completely Logan's laughter disappeared. Every conversation in Silverpine Hall faded with it, as the towering doors opened wide. 2 royal guards entered first, their dark ceremonial uniforms bearing the silver wolf crest of the Northern Crown. Commander Mason Reed followed, alert green eyes moving across the gathering with practiced ease. Then Alpha King Everett Hale crossed the threshold. Claire had heard enough stories to expect someone theatrical, a ruler who needed everyone to feel his power. Everett did nothing of the kind. He simply walked into the room, and powerful wolves lowered their heads. At 31, he carried authority without displaying it. Tall, broad through the shoulders, dressed in charcoal rather than royal ornament, with dark brown hair and a narrow scar beside his right eyebrow. His amber eyes were calm, almost unreadable. Logan immediately stepped away from Claire. The movement was so quick that something inside her nearly smiled. A moment earlier, he had enjoyed making her feel small. Now he straightened his coat and joined his father as Alpha Grant Whitaker approached the king. "Your Majesty, Silverpine is honored to receive you." Everett acknowledged him with a restrained nod. Claire lowered her head with everyone else, then turned back to the healer table. She had spent enough of her life worrying about powerful men's opinions. One more would change nothing. "You never answered me," Logan murmured as he passed behind her. Claire looked at him. "I wasn't aware you deserved an answer." His expression tightened, but Grant called his name before he could respond. Logan left. Claire released a slow breath and reached for the lavender. Then a child whimpered somewhere behind her. She turned immediately. A little girl stood near the central tables, perhaps 7 years old, trapped between adults gathering for the royal welcome. Her small hands covered her ears. Her breathing had become quick and shallow as the concentrated dominance of visiting alphas pressed through the room. No one seemed to notice. Claire did. She crossed the floor and crouched several feet away. "Hey, sweetheart." The girl's frightened eyes found hers. "It hurts. I know. You don't have to fight it." Claire kept her hands visible, letting the child decide whether she wanted contact. "Just look at me. Forget everyone else for a minute." The girl tried. Another tremor passed through her. "Can you breathe with me?" Claire drew in a slow breath, then released it. Again, on the third attempt, the child followed. "That's it," Claire whispered. "Nothing else matters right now. Just this breath." Small fingers eventually reached for hers. Claire took them gently. She never saw Everett stop in the middle of Grant's formal introduction. He had noticed her earlier only because Mercer had been standing too close to her when he entered. Now his attention returned for a different reason. Around Claire, nobles were positioning themselves to be seen. Several unmated women had already moved closer to the royal path. Yet the chestnut-haired Omega seemed unaware of him. She was kneeling on the polished floor in a blue-gray dress, giving her entire attention to one frightened child. Everett felt something shift beneath his ribs. His wolf, normally indifferent during ceremonies like this, stirred. Not violently. Not with recognition. Just enough to make him notice. Mason glanced sideways. "Something wrong?" "No." Everett's answer came too quickly. Mason wisely said nothing. The girl's mother finally hurried over, apologizing as she gathered her daughter close. "Thank you." I turned away for only a moment. "She's all right," Claire assured her. "Find somewhere quieter until the introductions are finished." Claire rose and brushed her skirt smooth. That was when she realized several people were watching. Logan stood beside Grant, his jaw tense. Madeline was studying Logan rather than Claire, as though his reaction interested her more than anything Claire had done. Uncomfortable with the attention, Claire started toward Nora. Halfway across the hall, an unfamiliar awareness brushed over her, so faint she almost dismissed it. She lifted her eyes. Everett Hale was looking directly at her. There was no smile on his face, no obvious invitation, only an intensity that made Claire's next step falter. Everett did not understand why he was watching her either. He knew only that when Claire finally looked away and continued walking, his wolf remained awake and followed her with its attention. Claire felt Everett's attention long after she returned to the healer table. She told herself it meant nothing. Kings watched rooms. They noticed people. That was part of ruling. Still, when Nora handed her a cup of water, Claire nearly missed it. "Careful," Nora murmured. "I'm fine. You keep saying that tonight." Claire took a drink rather than answer. Across the hall, Everett had resumed speaking with Alpha Grant, while Logan stood close enough to participate in the royal reception. Yet his attention kept drifting toward Claire. She recognized that look. Logan had worn it whenever something he considered his moved beyond his control. A few minutes later, he excused himself and crossed the room. Madeline followed, though her expression suggested she would rather not. "That was impressive," Logan said. Claire continued arranging supplies. "What was?" The child, His pleasant tone did not fool her. Perfect timing. Claire's hand stopped. She couldn't breathe. And somehow the king happened to see you save her. I helped her calm down. I didn't save anyone. Modest too. Nora straightened beside Claire. Logan, it's all right, Claire said. She was tired of needing other people to end conversations he started. Logan glanced toward two nearby delegates, then gave the familiar half-smile he used whenever cruelty could be disguised as humor. Perhaps they should know why you prefer the healer table to the mating introductions. Madeline touched his arm. There's no reason for this. I'm only explaining. He looked toward the listening guests. Our families once expected Claire and me to make a match. Claire's stomach tightened, but she remained still. There was never a mate bond, Logan continued. Nothing sacred, just an arrangement everyone assumed would happen because we grew up together. It wasn't an arrangement to me, Claire said quietly. Logan's eyes flickered. For an instant, something almost human crossed his face. Then pride buried it. No, you wanted more. Because you told me there would be more. Madeline slowly removed her hand from his arm. Logan ignored the movement. Then I grew up and understood what leadership required. A beta heir needs someone strong enough to stand beside him. Claire's wolf could barely answer her. The words still found the old bruise. Claire remembered waiting for him beneath the moon, believing years of affection outweighed rank. But this time she did not let the memory speak for her. You were allowed to change your mind. Logan looked almost triumphant. Exactly. You were not entitled to make me ashamed because you did. His smile faded. The nearby delegates fell silent. Claire met his eyes. You refused the future we had talked about. I survived that. What I never understood was why you needed everyone else to believe your decision proved something was wrong with me. Madeline looked at Logan now, not Claire. That isn't what happened, he said. Isn't it? You were devastated. People talked. And you encouraged them. His jaw hardened. Be careful, Claire. One glance from a king doesn't rewrite the past. There it was. Claire finally understood why he had crossed the room. This was not about what she had done. It was about who had noticed. This has nothing to do with Everett Hale. You expect me to believe that? I don't need you to believe anything about me anymore. The simplicity of the answer seemed to unsettle him more than anger would have. Claire lowered her voice. You made your choice 2 years ago, Logan. Go live it. Madeline inhaled softly. Logan stepped closer, but a new voice stopped him. Mr. Mercer. Mason Reed stood several feet away. His posture was relaxed. His eyes were not. His Majesty requires the beta heir at the ceremonial platform. Logan recovered quickly. Of course. Before leaving, he gave Claire a look that carried none of his earlier amusement. Madeline hesitated, then followed him without taking his arm. Mason's gaze rested briefly on Claire before he returned to the royal party. What Claire could not know was that Everett had already noticed enough of the exchange to ask Mason one quiet question about Logan and her. And when Mason returned with the answer, Everett looked across Silverpine Hall at Claire again, this time knowing that the man who had once promised to choose her was the same man still trying to make her feel unworthy of being chosen at all. Everett should have returned his attention to Alpha Grant. Instead, Mason's quiet report remained with him. No mate bond. No sacred rejection. Claire and Logan had simply grown up believing they would choose each other until Logan decided an Omega with a weak wolf would diminish his future. That should have explained Everett's irritation. It did not explain why his wolf had awakened the moment Claire crossed the room. Your Majesty? Grant prompted. Everett realized the Alpha was waiting for an answer about the evening schedule. Proceed as planned. His voice revealed nothing. Then Claire passed the royal table carrying a tray of calming herbs, and something faint moved beneath the heavier scents of smoke, cedar, wine, and perfume. Everett's fingers tightened around his goblet. It vanished almost immediately. He looked after her. You felt that, Mason murmured. I felt something. That sounds inconvenient. Everett gave him a warning glance. Mason became fascinated with the opposite wall. At the healer station, Claire set down the tray and pressed 2 fingers beneath her ribs. A strange warmth had followed her across the hall. Not pain, not even attraction in any way she understood. More like standing near a closed door and somehow knowing someone waited on the other side. She disliked the thought immediately. Hope had once made her careless. She would not confuse one king's attention with destiny. You're pale, Nora said. Too many people. That excuse was better the first time. Before Claire could answer, A steward requested a tonic for an elderly delegate seated near the royal table. Nora was already treating a woman's swollen wrist. Claire stared at the prepared cup. I can ask someone else to take it, Nora offered. Claire almost agreed. Then she remembered what she had told Logan. She would not let him decide where she belonged. Avoiding Everett because his attention unsettled her would be another kind of retreat. I'll go. She carried the tonic through the gathering and placed it before the elderly wolf. Small sips. It should help with the pressure. Thank you, dear. Claire turned and found Everett only a few feet away. She stopped abruptly. Your Majesty. Miss Whitmore. Hearing her name from him startled her. You know who I am? I asked. No practiced compliment followed. Somehow that made the answer more intimate. Claire became acutely aware of the silver crescent against her throat and the herbs clinging to her sleeves. Everett studied her without the appraisal she knew from mating gatherings. He seemed puzzled. The child earlier, he said. You knew what she needed immediately. Young wolves can become overwhelmed around concentrated dominance. No one else noticed. Claire glanced around the glittering room. Everyone else had something more important to watch. A trace of humor softened his expression. Meaning me. You did make a rather dramatic entrance. Everett almost smiled. I walked through a door. Apparently very impressively. The words escaped before Claire remembered whom she was teasing. Her cheeks warmed. Everett's quiet amusement surprised them both. Then the air shifted. The faint sensation beneath Claire's ribs returned, stronger at this distance. Everett caught that elusive scent again. Warm rain, wildflowers, something uniquely hers beneath lavender, and his wolf pushed forward. Not with certainty, with a question. His amber eyes brightened for an instant. Claire saw it. Her breath caught. Everett immediately stepped back. He had spent years around prospective mates without reaction, but he would not name something he did not yet understand. Are you all right? Claire asked. Before he could answer, Logan approached with Madeline. Your Majesty. His smile was courteous, his attention fixed on Claire. I hope Claire isn't keeping you from more important matters. Everett's expression cooled. She was speaking. You interrupted. Her. Logan faltered. I only meant she can sometimes misunderstand attention. Madeline's face tightened. Claire felt embarrassment rise, but Everett did not rescue her with an answer. He looked at Claire instead. Would you like Mr. Mercer to remain in this conversation? The question stunned her. No one had asked her that 2 years ago. Claire looked at Logan. No, Everett turned back to him. Then you have your answer. Logan's face hardened. He bowed and withdrew, Madeline following without touching his arm. Claire watched them go, then faced Everett again. Something fundamental had changed. He had possessed enough authority to silence Logan himself, and had chosen to hand the decision to her. Across the hall, Logan looked back and saw Claire still standing beside the king. His expression darkened. Everett noticed that too. But when the strange pull between him and Claire returned once more, he made himself look away. He did not know what it meant yet. He only knew he intended to find out. Logan waited until Everett was drawn into conversation with Elder Evelyn before returning to Claire. Madeline caught his sleeve halfway across the hall. Don't. He turned. Don't what? Whatever you're about to do. Her voice remained low, but the polish had disappeared from it. You spent 2 years telling everyone Claire meant nothing to you. Tonight, you can't stop watching her. Logan pulled his arm free. You're imagining things. Am I? He left without answering. Claire had returned to the healer station, where familiar work gave her hands something to trust. Everett's question still echoed inside her. Would you like Mr. Mercer to remain? Such a small thing. Yet no one had asked what she wanted when Logan rejected their future before half the pack. They had discussed her weakness, Logan's prospects, Silverpine's expectations, everything except Claire herself. She closed the wooden herb case. Enjoying the attention? Logan's voice came from behind her. Claire did not turn immediately. I was until now. His mouth tightened when she faced him. You think standing beside Everett Hale changes what happened? No good. Because when he leaves tomorrow, you'll still be an unmated omega with a wolf too weak to matter. Claire waited for the familiar collapse inside her. It never came. The insult sounded strangely old, like a door rattling after she had already moved out of the house. Maybe I will be unmated tomorrow. Logan seemed pleased until she continued. I'll still wake up. I'll still work. Nora will still complain that I organize herbs incorrectly. Children will still come to me when they're frightened. My life doesn't disappear because no man has marked me. His expression changed. That's easy to say now that a king is interested. You still don't understand. Claire touched the crescent pendant at her throat. Being unwanted by you didn't end me. Logan stepped closer. You were supposed to understand why I chose differently. I do. You wanted a future that looked powerful. I was protecting my position. Then why are you so angry that I stopped grieving it? The question landed between them. Madeline, standing several yards away, heard it. So did Nora. Logan's face flushed. You're forgetting your place. Claire looked at him for a long moment. No. I stopped letting you assign it. Before he could answer, Alpha Grant called from the ceremonial platform. Delegates to the central floor. The moon accord begins in 5 minutes. Claire lifted the herb case. Healers had been instructed to remain near the ceremonial circle in case concentrated alpha dominance overwhelmed younger or elderly wolves. She started toward the assigned table. Logan blocked her path. The royal section isn't for you. The healer station is. Move it farther back. Claire felt something settle inside her. 2 years ago, she would have obeyed simply to keep everyone comfortable. Tonight, obedience would cost more than confrontation. No, Logan blinked. What did you say? I said no. She stepped around him. Logan reached toward the case, but Claire pulled it beyond his grasp. Don't touch my things. Several nearby conversations quieted. Grant noticed the disturbance but remained near the platform, visibly torn between ceremony and his son. Claire continued forward and placed the case on the designated healer table beside the ritual circle. Logan followed. Claire, you don't belong here. She turned to face him. Then ask Elder Evelyn why she assigned healers here. This isn't about the elder. No, Claire said. It's about you needing me somewhere smaller. Logan went still. From the platform, Everett had heard enough. Mr. Mercer. His voice carried without effort. Logan straightened. Your Majesty. A misunderstanding. Everett looked from him to Claire, but he did not decide for her. Miss Whitmore, is there a problem? Every eye seemed to shift toward Claire. Her pulse hammered. This time, no one would answer first. Yes, she said. Mr. Mercer keeps trying to remove me from a station where I was assigned to work. Everett turned to Logan. Then the misunderstanding appears to be yours. Logan's jaw tightened. Of course. He withdrew because he had no choice. Claire remained because she had made one. Elder Evelyn raised her silver staff, and the gathering formed a broad circle around the ceremonial braziers. Everett took his place near the center. Claire stood where Logan had insisted she did not belong. When the first wave of alpha dominance rolled across the hall, however, victory vanished beneath sudden pressure. Claire gripped the edge of the healer table as her faint wolf recoiled, and across the circle, Everett's head snapped toward her. The pressure struck Claire harder than before. As Elder Evelyn began the moon accord oath, dominance from the assembled alphas rolled through Silverpine Hall in overlapping waves. Claire's faint wolf retreated so suddenly that cold swept through her limbs. She tightened both hands around the healer table. She had fought too hard to remain here. She would not leave simply because her body was struggling to do the same. Another pulse came. Her vision blurred. Across the circle, Everett moved before thought could stop him. He reached Claire just as her knees weakened, catching one of her hands while his other steadied her elbow. The instant their skin met, the room seemed to disappear. Claire gasped. Everett's dominance did not add to the weight crushing her. It surrounded her, separating that pressure from her until she could breathe. Again. Then something inside Claire, something she had spent years being told was barely there, lifted its head. Her wolf. Not suddenly powerful. Not transformed. Simply awake in a way Claire had never felt before. A quiet recognition moved through her so deeply that tears sprang to her eyes. Everett went motionless. The elusive scent he had noticed all evening opened around her. Warm rain, wildflowers, lavender clinging to her sleeves. His wolf surged forward with a certainty that no courtship, political introduction, or carefully arranged meeting had ever awakened in him. Mate. The word came from instinct. Everett refused to speak it yet. Claire stared at their joined hands. What just happened? Her voice trembled. I'm not certain enough to answer carelessly. That honesty frightened her more than certainty might have. But you suspect something. Everett met her eyes. Around them, Elder Evelyn had paused, and nearby wolves were beginning to notice. He loosened his hold immediately. Can you stand without me? Claire tested her legs. Yes. He released her. The absence of his touch felt strangely hollow, but Claire resisted the impulse to reach back. Everett turned toward Evelyn. Please continue. The elder's pale gaze moved between them before she resumed the oath. Everett remained close enough to intervene if Claire faltered, yet he did not touch her again. When the ceremony shifted into the response portion and attention moved toward the delegates, Claire whispered, "Tell me what you think it is." "Not here." Old fear tightened her chest. "Logan used to decide what I was allowed to know because he said he understood our future better than I did." Everett's expression changed. "Then I won't repeat his mistake." He lowered his voice. "My wolf recognized yours when I touched you." Claire's breath caught. Recognized how? Everett hesitated only long enough to make certain the answer belonged to truth rather than instinct. "As my mate." For several seconds, she heard nothing but the crackle of the braziers. "No." The word escaped before she could soften it. Everett did not flinch. Claire shook her head. "Logan and I never had a mate bond." "I know that. We were expected to choose each other, and I mistook promises for certainty. But after what happened, I stopped trusting the idea that being chosen could make me safe." "It can't." Claire looked at him. "Then why does this feel different?" "Because fate may have recognized something before either of us did." His jaw tightened as though his wolf disliked what came next. "But fate does not own you." Claire searched his face. "And you do?" "No." The answer was immediate. "A mate bond tells me what my wolf recognizes. It does not give me your consent, your future, or your loyalty." Something painful inside Claire loosened. "What about Luna?" Everett's gaze sharpened at the title. "That is more than instinct. A Luna stands beside the Alpha King by choice. I will not ask you for that while you are still trying to understand what happened tonight." Claire swallowed. "And if I never choose it?" His wolf fought the answer. She saw that much in the brief flare of amber in his eyes. Everett gave it anyway. "Then I will respect you from whatever distance you require." Across the ceremonial circle, Logan watched Claire step away from the king. He had seen Everett rush to her. He had seen their hands join. He had not heard a single word afterward. When Claire created distance between them, relief twisted across Logan's face. He thought he understood what he had witnessed. Even the Alpha King had reached for Claire, and Claire had pulled away. By the time the final oath ended, that misunderstanding had already become something more dangerous. Permission, in Logan's mind, to remind Claire where he believed she truly belonged. The moon accord ended, but Claire barely heard the closing words. Everett's revelation followed her through the dispersing crowd. "Mate." The word should have felt like an answer. Instead, it opened 100 questions, and she needed somewhere quiet enough to hear her own thoughts. "I'm taking the supplies back to the infirmary," she told Nora. Her aunt studied her, then nodded. "I'll finish here." Claire carried the herb case into the western corridor. The noise of Silverpine Hall softened behind her. She had almost reached the courtyard when Logan stepped into her path. "So that's what happened." Claire stopped. "Move, Logan. The king touched you, and then you backed away." His mouth curved with bitter satisfaction. "Even Everett Hale couldn't make you want him. Whatever happened between us is private." "Between you?" Logan laughed. "Yesterday, no one wanted you. Tonight you're speaking as if you have choices." The cruelty no longer wounded Claire the way he intended. It clarified him. "I always had choices. You just preferred me when I didn't know it." She moved to pass. Logan blocked her again. "You expect me to believe this isn't revenge? Parade yourself in front of the king. Make sure everyone sees him chasing you. Stop." Claire's voice cut cleanly through his. "I didn't arrange any of this, and I am done explaining myself to you." She stepped around him. Logan seized her wrist. The herb case slipped from her hand and struck the stone floor. Claire looked down at his fingers, then back at his face. "Let go. Listen to me." "No," she pulled once. His grip tightened. "Let go of me, Logan." He leaned closer, desperation replacing the confidence he had worn all evening. "You loved me once." That was never permission. Claire twisted free for half a second, but Logan reached again, catching her near the shoulder. His knuckles snagged the silver chain at her throat. The link snapped. Claire heard the tiny metallic sound before the crescent pendant fell and struck the stone between them. She stared at it. Something inside her went utterly still. "I said no." A growl rolled down the corridor. Logan froze. Everett stood several yards away with Mason behind him, amber burning through his eyes. He had followed only because he wanted to make certain Claire reached the quieter wings safely. Now his gaze moved from the red marks around her wrist to Logan's hand near her shoulder, then to the silver crescent lying on the floor. Everett advanced one measured step. Take your hand off her. Logan released Claire's shoulder, but reached for her wrist again, as if possession could still be explained away. Your Majesty, you don't understand. Claire and I have history. Everett's voice dropped. She said no. She's confused. She walked away from you too. And I let her. Logan faltered. Everett came closer. Because walking away is her right. Claire's breath caught. You rejected whatever happened between you. Logan insisted. I'm trying to make her understand. You were told not to speak for her. Everett's dominance flooded the corridor, controlled but overwhelming. You were told not to decide where she belongs. And twice, she told you to let go. Logan finally stepped back. For 1 second, Claire thought it was over. Then pride made him reach toward her again. Everett moved between them. The growl that tore from his chest shook the silence. Don't touch my Luna. Logan went white. Footsteps stopped behind them. Guests emerging from the hall had heard every word. Alpha Grant stood among them, horror spreading across his face. Madeline stared at Logan's outstretched hand. Nora's eyes went immediately to Claire's wrist. Elder Evelyn arrived last, her silver staff striking the floor once. Everett did not look at the crowd. He turned to Claire, and the fury vanished from his expression. Are you hurt? Claire shook her head, though her pulse thundered. Then she looked past him at the pendant on the floor. Everett followed her gaze, but did not pick it up. He remembered what she had told him minutes earlier. Fate did not own her. Neither did he. Logan found his voice. You can't call her Luna because your wolf chose her. No, Elder Evelyn said. The corridor fell silent. Her pale eyes settled first on Everett, then on Claire. He cannot. Everett's jaw tightened. Claire felt the meaning of his instinctive declaration suddenly change. Evelyn planted her staff firmly against the stone. A king may recognize his mate by fate. But Luna is another matter entirely. Claire looked at Everett. He had promised never to decide her future for her, yet in the instant he believed she was threatened, he had spoken the one title that could alter both their lives. Evelyn's gaze remained on Claire. What His Majesty has declared before these witnesses carries consequences. But whether those words become a crown, a promise, or nothing at all, she paused. That decision does not belong to the king. For several seconds, no one moved. Claire stood behind Everett with the broken chain against her skin and Logan's fingerprints reddening her wrist, while Elder Evelyn's words settled over the corridor. Then Claire asked the only question that mattered. What happens if I say no? Evelyn's pale eyes softened. Then you remain Claire Whitmore. Nothing is taken from you. A murmur passed through the witnesses. Under the crown accord, Luna is not another name for mate. A king may recognize a mate through instinct, but Luna is the woman invited to stand beside the throne, with her own authority, duties, and voice. He may offer that place publicly. He cannot force her to accept it. Claire looked at Everett. He removed the royal signet from his right hand and placed it in Mason's palm. No proclamation will be issued. No announcement will leave Silver Pine in Miss Whitmore's name unless she chooses it herself. Mason closed his hand around the ring. Understood. Everett stepped aside, opening the space around Claire rather than occupying it. I broke my own promise, he said. You reacted when I was in danger. That explains it. It doesn't excuse deciding for you. Claire had expected defense from a king. Instead, he gave her accountability. Behind them, Grant seized Logan by the arm. Apologize. Logan stared at his father. For what? She's turning this into enough. Madeline's voice stopped him. She removed the jeweled courtship pin at her collar and placed it in Logan's palm. His anger gave way to disbelief. Madeline, I heard her tell you to let go. Her eyes dropped to Claire's wrist. Twice. You don't understand what happened between us. Neither did you. Madeline stepped away. That was the problem. Grant's face tightened with shame. Commander Reed, my son will answer before Silver Pine's council for putting his hands on a pack member after she withdrew consent. Mason glanced toward Everett. The king remained silent. Claire understood the choice. Logan would not be punished because he had offended the Alpha King's mate. He would answer because Claire's no should have mattered even if she had been exactly what he called her, an unmated Omega. With no powerful man beside her, Logan looked at Claire as Grant prepared to lead him away. Are you satisfied? Once, She might have wanted him humiliated as deeply as he had humiliated her. Now she only felt tired. No, his expression shifted. I wanted you to leave me alone. Grant escorted him away. Madeline followed separately, never reaching for Logan's arm. When the corridor finally began to clear, Nora hurried to Claire and examined her wrist. Then she saw the silver crescent on the floor. Oh, sweetheart. Claire bent to retrieve it, but Everett reached the pendant at the same moment. He stopped before touching it. May I? The question nearly undid her. Claire nodded. Everett lifted the crescent carefully and placed it in her palm. The pendant itself was unharmed. Only the chain had broken. Nora inspected it and released a relieved breath. Your mother would have found a way to haunt this hall if you lost that. Claire laughed softly despite the tears gathering in her eyes. Nora touched the broken link. This can be repaired. I know. Claire looked at Everett when she said it. Later, after Nora treated her wrist and the last witnesses returned to the hall, Claire found Everett waiting near the courtyard doors. He kept several feet between them. You call me Luna. I did. Do you regret it? Everett considered the question. I regret taking a choice from you, even for a moment. I don't regret wanting you safe. Claire touched the crescent in her palm. I don't want one man deciding I'm beneath him and another deciding I belong to him. Then neither will happen. Everett lowered his head. I won't use that title again unless you give it back to me. Claire studied the most powerful man in the Northern Territories and saw him deliberately surrender the easiest kind of power, the right to assume. I need time. Take all of it. He turned to leave. Everett. He stopped. Claire opened her hand. The broken necklace rested across her palm. Do you know someone who repairs silver? His gaze lifted to hers. Yes. Claire placed the necklace in his waiting hand. His fingers closed carefully around it, never touching hers until she chose to let them. It was not acceptance of a crown, a bond, or a future. But for the first time that night, Claire was not stepping away from him. She was trusting him with something she loved. By morning, Silverpine Hall no longer felt like the place where Claire had been laughed at. The same banners hung overhead. The same candles burned low in their holders. Yet she walked through the gathering without wondering who might notice the absence of a mate mark on her skin. Logan had been removed from ceremonial duties pending judgment by Silverpine's council. Madeline had ended their courtship. Neither fact gave Claire the satisfaction she once imagined justice would bring. What mattered was simpler. When she had said no, people had finally treated the word as complete. Alpha Grant found her near the healer station shortly after sunrise. For once, he carried none of a pack leader's practiced certainty. I owe you an apology. Claire waited. I watched Logan diminish you for years and told myself it was a private matter. His gaze dropped. Silence was easier than confronting my son. Claire thought of the 22-year-old woman who had stood before half the pack, while everyone discussed why she was not enough. Then don't be silent next time. Grant raised his eyes. Next time, when another Omega says no. When someone without a king beside her needs to be believed. Shame crossed his face. He bowed his head. I won't be. Claire accepted that, not as repayment, but as evidence something might change after she left this room. Nora found her later beside an open window overlooking the pines. The king is waiting in the courtyard. Claire touched the empty place at her throat and went outside. Everett stood alone beneath the pale morning sky. No guards. No ceremony. When she approached, he opened his palm. Her silver crescent rested there on a repaired chain. Claire lifted it carefully. The broken link had been restored so neatly she could barely find the seam. You kept your promise. I had help from someone considerably better with silver than I am. A smile touched her mouth. Everett lifted the necklace, then stopped. May I? Claire turned and swept her chestnut hair aside. He fastened the clasp without letting his fingers linger against her skin. That small restraint reached deeper than any grand declaration could have. When she faced him, Claire held the crescent between her fingers. 2 years ago, I thought being unchosen was the worst thing that could happen to a woman. Everett said nothing. He had learned when silence was a gift. I was wrong, she continued. The worst thing would have been choosing someone who needed me to become smaller so he could feel larger. Her voice caught, but she smiled. Logan never had the power to determine my worth. I just gave it to him for too long. And I don't want that power either, Everett said. Claire studied him. Then why do you want me? His answer came without hesitation. The bond made my wolf recognize you. It didn't make you kneel beside a frightened child when everyone else looked away. It didn't make you stand your ground when Mercer tried to move you. Fate told me where to look, Claire. You gave me reasons to stay. Tears warmed her eyes. If I become Luna, I keep my work with healers. Yes. I have a voice beside you, not behind you. Yes. And when you're wrong? His mouth curved. I suspect you'll tell me before Mason gets the chance. Claire laughed, then took his hand. This time the bond's warmth did not frighten her. It was present, but it was not making the decision. She was. Everett Hale, I choose you. Relief broke across his guarded face with such tenderness that Claire understood how difficult waiting had been for him. Still, he asked one final question. And Luna? Claire looked toward the doors of Silverpine Hall. You may give me the title back. They entered together. Elder Evelyn rose first. Mason returned Everett's royal signet. Nora covered her mouth as tears filled her eyes. Grant bowed. Claire noticed the empty place where Logan would have stood and felt no need to look for him. The story had stopped being about his rejection. Everett waited before the assembled packs until Claire squeezed his hand. Only then did he speak. My Luna. One by one, the room bowed. Claire lifted her head as morning light caught the repaired crescent at her throat. Once a man had laughed because she was still unmated, and she had mistaken that word for a verdict. Now she understood the truth. Being chosen had never made her worthy. She had always been worthy. The difference was that she had finally chosen a man who knew it too. Everett opened his hand around hers instead of tightening his grip, and Claire willingly threaded their fingers together. True strength, she realized, was never forcing someone to stay. It was giving them every freedom to leave, and becoming the person they freely chose to walk beside.